My parents tried to take my house at a family dinner. Not metaphorically. Not emotionally. Literally. They waited until dessert. My father cleared his throat, the same way he always did before issuing an order he pretended was a discussion. That sound alone was enough to make my shoulders tighten. 32 years old, and my body still reacted before my mind did. "Alice," he said, smiling. "That house you've been working on." I already knew where this was going. I just didn't know how fast they planned to run me over. My mother leaned forward, pearls tight against her neck, her voice warm and rehearsed. She talked about responsibility, about family, about how my older brother, Declan, needed stability now that he was getting married. Across the table, Declan didn't say a word. He never had to. He sat back with that relaxed confidence that comes from knowing consequences always land somewhere else. They spoke about my house like it was community property. Like 5 years of saving, rebuilding, and sacrifice were irrelevant footnotes. Then my father said it plainly. "Declan needs it more than you do." A man starting a family mattered more. That was the logic. My mother lifted her glass and announced it was settled. They toasted my generosity before I had agreed to anything. I looked down at my wine glass. My hand was shaking. For most of my life, this was the moment where I folded, where I smoothed things over, where I swallowed the damage so everyone else could stay comfortable. I set the glass down. "No," I said. Not loudly, not angrily, just final. The room froze. No one laughed. No one moved. Even the clinking from the kitchen stopped. And for the first time in my life, I didn't clean up the mess they'd made. The silence after I said no felt familiar. Heavy. Expectant. This was the pause where everyone waited for me to fix things. I'd been trained for it. I learned how my family really worked when I was 8 years old. I was reading on my bedroom floor when I heard the crash. Sharp. Unmistakable. I ran into the living room and saw shattered glass across the hardwood floor. My grandmother's picture frame. Heavy. Irreplaceable. Declan stood frozen near the doorway, already calculating. He said it fell on its own. We both knew that was a lie. He'd been throwing a ball inside the house. "Mom and Dad will be home soon," I whispered. Without being asked, I grabbed the broom and dustpan. My hands shook as I swept, terrified of missing a shard. I replaced the photo in a cheap frame and buried the broken one deep in the trash. When our parents came home, Declan was watching television. I was emptying the dustpan. My mother saw me and told me to take the trash out. From the couch, Declan laughed and called me the cleanup crew. I smiled. Smiling kept things quiet. By 12, the pattern was locked in. Declan borrowed my bike without asking and bent the wheel crashing into a mailbox. When my father came home, he checked Declan's scraped knee first. Then he bought him a new bike. Mine sat on the curb until Russ took it and the city hauled it away. By 16, I wasn't cleaning messes anymore. I was fixing systems. Leaky sinks. Broken doors. Loose floorboards. I taught myself because no one else cared enough to learn. One afternoon, my mother watched me work under the sink and said I should have been born a boy. At least then I'd be useful. That was when something in me hardened. I stopped expecting fairness. I started building walls instead. I didn't realize yet that I was building my own cage. The only person who ever saw me clearly was my grandmother, June. She smelled like soil and chamomile tea. When my house got too loud, I escaped her garden. She never lectured. She observed. One day, she pointed to a weed pushing through a crack in her driveway. "You're like that," she said. "You don't shout. You push." When she died, the will reading went exactly as expected. Declan got a trust fund. I got her journals and her toolbox. No one argued. It felt balanced to them. I read those journals every night. They weren't sentimental. They were warnings. A few years later, I saved just enough for a down payment and found the house. A 1920s craftsman on the wrong side of town. Sagging porch. Leaking roof. Dark listing photos. Everyone else saw decay. I saw bones. The foundation was solid. The house wasn't broken. It was buried. I bought it. For 5 years, I rebuilt it piece by piece. Every paycheck, every weekend, every ounce of patience I'd learned growing up. My parents visited once. My father laughed and called it a lost cause. My mother wrinkled her nose and said Declan was working on something real. That night, alone, sanding the same step until my hands ached, I realized something. I had built a home out of everything they said would destroy me, and it was standing. They asked for a private dinner to resolve things. I arrived last. Miss Hayes arrived with me and a forensic accountant. The room changed instantly. Their lawyer started talking about compromise. Miss Hayes slid one folder across the table. Lawsuit dismissed. Ownership proven. Then a second folder. Thicker. The accountant explained the withdrawals. Dates. Amounts. Purchases. Declan finally looked up. Confusion turned into anger. Then into silence. His fiancée stood, removed her ring, and placed it on the table. The sound was sharper than shouting. Miss Hayes explained their options. My mother cried. My father stared at the table. I stood. This isn't revenge, I said. It's accounting. Then I walked out. 6 months have passed. The lawsuit is gone. Repayment started. My parents sold their house. Mine is quiet. I sit on the steps in the morning and watch light move across the floor as I restored. I read my grandmother's journals. Justice didn't roar. It settled. Silence, I learned, is a boundary. And I finally stopped paying for everyone else's damage.